we welcome to the show the most recognizable documentarian of all time, Ken Burns, who joins us to discuss his new project, The American Revolution, set to premiere this November on PBS. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also dive into today's top stories, including an HISD teacher being recommended for termination following parent allegations that the teacher locked several special needs students in a cabinet.
And I'm Frank Billingsley, plus Militza Mezquita, the Texas State Director for the International Humanitarian Organization Save the Children, will share 5 fun ways to keep kids learning over the summer.
And as Ernie, Frank, and I discuss the top headlines of the day, we want your thoughts, your questions, and your concerns. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The Supreme Court has unanimously sided with a woman in Ohio who says she suffered discrimination at work because she's straight. NPR's Andrea Hsu reports the ruling is expected to make it easier for members of majority groups to prove discrimination.
Marlene Ames had been working for the Ohio Department of Youth Services when in 2019 she was passed over for a new job in management. The position went to a lesbian woman instead. Subsequently, Ames was demoted from her job as program administrator, and a gay man was hired in her place. Ames sued, alleging discrimination because she's straight. The lower court sided with her employer, citing a legal standard that requires white people, men, and those who are not gay to meet a higher bar when bringing a discrimination case. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who wrote the opinion for the court, agreed with Ames that there cannot be different standards for different groups of people. Andrea Hsu, NPR News.
President Trump spoke by phone to Chinese President Xi Jinping today. The two leaders discussed trade in a lengthy call this morning. NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben reports in a social media post Trump sounded optimistic about what comes next, but the future of the country's tariffs remains unpredictable.
Trump posted that he and Xi spoke for around 1.5 hours, largely focusing their conversation on trade. China and the U.S. had tariffs on each other's goods of more than 100%. Before last month, the two countries agreed to lower their tariffs for 90 days while they sought a longer-term agreement. Currently, tariffs on Chinese goods are 30%, and China tariffs on U.S. goods are 10%. Trump added that U.S. and Chinese delegations would meet soon, but did not specify a date or location. All of this happens days after a federal court ruled that Trump's China tariffs, among others, are illegal. Those tariffs remain in place while the administration appeals the ruling. Danielle Kurtzleben, NPR News.
President Trump is banning or restricting people in more than a dozen countries from entering the U.S., citing national security concerns. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports Trump says his signing of the proclamation fulfills a campaign promise to protect Americans.
The justification for such a sweeping ban was that the White House at least says the action was needed to protect the U.S. from terrorist attacks and that these countries lacked the right vetting capabilities. In a video statement, Trump actually cited the firebombing attack in Boulder, Colorado as an example of why this was necessary. That man charged with that attack is actually from Egypt, which is not among the countries listed in the travel ban.
That's NPR's Franco Ordonez reporting. Stocks on Wall Street are trading higher at this hour. The Dow was up 158 points. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. State Representative Jolanda Jones has entered the contest for Texas's 18th congressional district. She joins a crowded field that already includes Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee and former Houston City Council member Amanda Edwards. The special election is to fill the seat of the late Congressman Sylvester Turner is scheduled for November 4th. One of the biggest bills that failed to pass during the legislative session that ended Monday would have required people to provide proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote. News 88.7's government reporter Andrew Schneider looks at some of the reasons the measure fell short.
Senate Bill 16 passed the Senate on a party line vote, but the bill never made it to the House floor for consideration.
I think it sort of became obvious that the implementation of the bill would be basically impossible without inconveniencing an astonishing number of voters.
Jessica Hewlett is Houston Regional Director for Vote Riders, a nonprofit that opposed SB 16.
I think it was also probably competing with other sort of Republican priorities here in Texas. Also, I think there was just a lot of really great, strong testimony from constituents at committee hearings and during the Senate vote.
Hewlett says more than half of all U.S. states have introduced bills requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote, and she says Texas will likely try again to pass such a bill in the future. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
The Houston City Council approved a $7 billion budget yesterday for the 2026 fiscal year, which starts in July. Mayor John Whitmire's administration slashed about $75 million in spending from the city's general fund, reducing the deficit from more than $200 million in 2025 to about $107 million in 2026. Here's Whitmire.
I'm proud of the budget. We were told we couldn't do it. We couldn't balance it by political critics. We ignored them, went forward. We have a lot of work to do. This is a giant step, but
It's currently 86 degrees. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston. It is a busy show we have today, so we're going to jump right in. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Let's do it. He is perhaps the most famous and critically acclaimed documentary filmmaker of all time. Ken Burns has explored numerous subjects, people, and moments in history in his critically acclaimed documentaries: the Civil War, jazz, baseball, the Vietnam War, just to name a few. His newest documentary, The American Revolution, is set to premiere in November. He co-produced it with Sarah Botstein and David Schmidt. To tell us more about the documentary, we welcome Ken and Sarah to the program. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Hello, Houston. Sure. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Houston.
You know, I think my first question in all of this, in terms of time, when you're trying to put something together like this, is the Civil War just as far away as the Revolutionary War? Or is there really a difference in that group of years as far as gathering information and the stories?
What a smart question. It's huge difference. I mean, we know the Civil War and we feel it. We feel like we know the people because we have photographs, thousands and thousands of photographs. We don't have newsreels until those veterans start reuniting at 50 and 75 and 100 years. And so that's just stuff you can use in your last episode. The Vietnam, of course, and World War II, subject of another film, are amply covered not only by still photography but by newsreel. There are no newsreels and there are no photographs for the American Revolution. Right. And what that does, first of all, is it makes us sort of feel detached from the actual events. We see it, we sort of romanticize it. We sort of treat it as an object, a relic in amber, and we don't see it for what it was, as a bloody civil war, as costly as our own Civil War, which was not a civil war as much as a sectional war. This was a civil war, lots of civilian deaths all up and down the 13 former colonies. And so when you have people in paintings, and only a handful, just a tiny percentage of people are painted, then the world gets anonymous. You don't have the portrait that the private had. You do have the portrait of the general, but you don't have the private. So our job, Sarah's and my job, and David Schmidt's, has been over the last nearly 10 years to sort of remove the onus of that, to make this a real and very violent struggle. It does not in any way diminish the great ideas that are a product of this. The most consequential revolution in history, we say. I think one of the most important events in all of world history, certainly the most important event since the birth of Christ, is the invention of the United States, where everyone before was a subject and now people have the opportunity to be citizens and all the tremendous responsibility. So we've told a story, And we've used reenactment footage, we've used paintings, we've used maps, and we have many people, writers and scholars who comment, but we have hundreds of first-person voices that give dimension and therefore reality to the famous figures like the George Washingtons and the Thomas Jeffersons and the John Adams. But it's also introducing you to a 14-year-old fifer named John Greenwood from Boston who joins the militia, or a 15-year-old from Connecticut who joins the Continental Army, or a 10-year-old gal from Yorktown, Virginia, who's all the way through. Really helps when that 10-year-old gal's remembrances are read by Maya Hawke, or that Tom Hanks is reading some quotes, or Meryl Streep, or Paul Giamatti is reprising his John Adams role, or there's Josh Brolin, or there's Sir Kenneth Branagh. We have French, we have German, we have British, Irish, common soldiers, King George. It is everybody's there, loyalists as well as patriots. And so what happens is, I think the combination of how we've used the reenactments like footage, like newsreel, how we've used the paintings like photographs, how we've treated the landscape. We've always had live cinematography like it's the big star. This is the most beautiful, the prize of North America is what this is all about, and that those voices bring alive the story of the creation of us. And I mean that both as lowercase and uppercase, the U.S., but also us. And the problem is, because it just gets relegated to history or whatever, and it's not boring, it's too boring, and people aren't like, this is one of the best stories. We won't work on a more important film.
Yeah. Sarah, quickly also, it takes, as I understand, 10 years to pull this together, yet it seems so in the moment right now.
Right.
Calculating where we will be by the time a project starts to when it'll finish, how do you guys, you're always right on it.
We love to talk about this because, we start a film in one moment, it comes out in another moment, and the whole way we are making the film, two things are happening. One, we're not listening to anything that's happening around us, and we're hearing the parallels and the ways in which the history is resonating or echoing or talking to the past changes every month, every year that we make the film. And so we often work through 2 or 3 presidential administrations, certainly lots of local elections in our communities. Our lives change and our emotional connections to the story change, as well as the historical relevance or resonances. So, I love that about our work, but really, I say this all the time, and we talk about it all the time. We really put our heads down and we try to get the story right and the history right, and then we just let it go out into the world, and people will find the echoes and resonances as they change and evolve. And what we want is a film that will stand the test of time and a story that's accurate and dynamic and hopefully not boring.
Yeah, and you can reverse engineer that. What if you didn't do that? What if you're pointing neon signs? Oh, isn't this so much like today? You've just dated your film. You've made it irrelevant, right? So if we are disciplined while we're making it, and we understand, look, there's a failed invasion of Canada in here. There's debates about inoculation. There's an eclipse, There's lots of stuff, hundreds of things that you will go. But if you have a discipline about it, the way, say, an athlete has to be just focused on telling the story and figuring out how to do your job, then you're going to do something, and when it's out, it has that ability to be durable and lasting. And let's remember, today is a school day in most of America, and our films, some of them 35 years old, the Civil War series is 35 years old, are being shown hundreds of times today. Hundreds of times. So a portion of it in classrooms all across the United States. And that's true of Lewis and Clark, it's true of jazz, it's true of the World War II and Vietnam, it's true of country music, it's true of the Roosevelts, the Dust Bowl. They're in rotation, and that is joyous. It wouldn't happen if we're sort of saying, isn't this so like today? Well, we started this, and Barack Obama still had 13 months in his presidency, and then we went through the first term of President Trump and the full term of Joe Biden, and now we're into the second term of... It doesn't matter to us. History will always rhyme. It will always resonate because human nature is involved. And the problem, and your interesting and really spot-on first question, is about that. We somehow think, because all we see are just the stockings and the breeches and they can't be like us. They are exactly like us. All of the degrees of generosity and greed, of virtue and venality are there. among people and sometimes within people. So you can take somebody who's now become so cliched that you can't relate to him or her, and you make them human with flaws, and suddenly they're realer, more dimensional, and you're more curious about them. And you go, they did that? And suddenly the superficiality of the American Revolution, Lexington conquered, then maybe it's Bunker's Hill, which takes place at Breed Hill, Trenton crosses the Delaware, and then surrender at Yorktown. Boom, done, right? And the time between, the surrender at Yorktown happens about 2/3 of the way through our sixth episode of 12 hours.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So the American Revolution is obviously this 6-part documentary series. And as you're exploring the country's founding struggles and the 8-year War of Independence, how do you decide what needs to go in 6 parts? Right?
So I'll let Sarah answer this too, just to say that you would presume that making a film is a building process.
Right.
It's a subtracting process. We collect 40 to 50 times the amount of material that we'll have for these final 12 hours. More than 500 hours of material, from paintings to maps to interviews with people to some of the reenactments. And then it's figuring out what you can keep. Remember the movie Amadeus? What's too many notes? How can we include a bottom-up as well as a top-down story? How can we give dimension to people who are so familiar that they become unknown to us, like a George Washington, who's without a doubt the most important person in the whole story, though very, very complicated human being. And so it's, and then you meet Betsy Ambler in Yorktown, and you meet John Greenwood, and you meet Joseph Plummer, and you meet loyalists, and we're umpires calling balls and strikes.
Wow.
But the thing is, it's not a process of adding. It's really a process of subtraction. We collect all this stuff. We work for years gathering the material.
So then how do you know what you cut out at that point?
Well, I was going to answer the question a little differently than Ken, actually, which maybe goes to that. People ask us this question a lot, and I think they're often surprised that our process stays the same regardless of the subject matter. So if you're making a film about jazz music or the Vietnam War, Ernest Hemingway, or Ken worked on a big series on country music, the way we approach the work is always the same. And yes, it's subtractive, but we also are in the business of listening. So we want to add what we're missing, and we work chronologically. Our process is the same. We take our time and we listen very carefully, not only to the scholars and advisors and historians and archivists and visual material, but we're subtracting from everything we collect, which is, a ratio of 10 or 40 to 1. But then we're also adding the things that we're missing because we want to tell the story, I think, of the human experience through a subject. So for me, a war film is more interesting the more political and family dynamics that happen. He loves when the right flank and the left flank and the specifics of a battle. And so I'm going to lean into how Ken sees the importance of a military struggle. And then we're all going to cry when somebody dies, or you learn that, that general's wife is pregnant and her family chose this. It's a great family drama and a great political drama, and it's a war. And so we're adding and subtracting all the time.
Did you find in this something that you were so surprised you just went, oh my gosh?
I don't think there was a day.
A lot.
I mean, that's always the great gift of these projects. I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 50 years. And the great gift is that if, a couple of times, Vietnam, because I grew up in the 60s, and baseball, which I've played and loved since I was a kid. I figured, well, finally I've got something I really know about. I have a general knowledge of American history, and I can, I can hold my own at dinner. But I thought, these two projects, and both of them were daily humiliations for years of what I did not know. And so that's really great. We go into these not sort of trying to assemble these things that we want to tell you to know. The last time I checked, that's homework. We're sharing with you a process of discovery. So it comes in a blizzard of facts and a blizzard of moments and a blizzard of individual action. And one of the things that I think draws people to the film is that they're going to be, say, at the biggest battle of the Revolution, the Battle of Long Island, which I don't think you knew. That's one of the things we went, what? And it's a huge tactical mistake that Washington does. The British turn his left flank. He's left it unprotected. Sarah, and now gets it because of the animations and the maps that we used, and so it happens. But we're also interested in introducing you in the middle of that battle to Joseph Plum Martin, this 15-year-old from Connecticut who's joined and he's rowing across the East River, and we've got oars in a boat churning through, and he's headed to this thing, and he is now going, what have I gotten myself into? And so there's a kind of intimacy. You know the calculations and the that George Washington is experiencing, having realized that he for some reason left this Jamaica Pass, undefended. And that the British have gone through it and have come on behind the main force of his army. But you also got an ordinary grunt about to go into what will be the worst fighting of the revolution to date.
How close did we come to losing?
Oh, I mean, look, last April 19th, 2 months ago, right, was the 250th anniversary of Lexington. If you were Las Vegas was there, and you were putting odds, 0, right? 0. And then many times throughout this, there's lots of wonderful victories, and you go, okay, well, now we've got it, right? I mean, you want it to, good history, someone told me, is you stay tuned because it might not turn out the way you know it did, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, I've blown it. I get, spoiler alert, the surrender. But even at the end of the 5th episode, when Charleston falls, you go, uh-oh, I don't know how we're going to do this. You go, well, wait a second. We know it's going to be all right. And then it becomes, well, how do we recover from this extraordinary loss? And that sense that no one then knew that they were George Washington or Thomas Jefferson. No one then understood how it was going to turn out. No, everything was contingency. So we have that total luxury of thinking we know. And I've always said that I really hope that when people were watching, and I heard from thousands of people that this was the case, that when they went to Ford's Theater in our Civil War film, when it got to that scene, that they hoped the gun would jam, or that the presidential the door to the box was locked and he couldn't get in. So we know what happened.
Yeah. Do you have to presuppose the audience knows something?
No. We suppose that the audience is ignorant of it, but maybe, and I do not mean this in any insulting way, because an educated 8th grader is a pretty, potent force. Mm-hmm. That you basically can understand the vocabulary of 8th grade, and you've got some knowledge, but we do not presuppose anything. And so part of the excitement for us is how that you can keep those people who are scholars, and we've engaged the services of many, many scholars who themselves had said, I didn't know this person. I didn't know this story. I didn't get that thing, as well as helping us say, you really ought to tell this story. And at the same time, bring along, that kid who just is sitting there looking at, oh my God, it's no longer powdered wig, all of the superficial stuff about George Washington, never tell a lie, all of that stuff. This guy has dimension now, and that's... You'll know who he is, or you'll know how difficult it is to know who he is because of his implacable ways.
And as you say that, oftentimes, when we think of students, and you said how your films are being watched in school, we think of history and we think government and we think social studies and sitting there and opening this kind of static textbook. Do you find that, Sarah, you mentioned the human connection, connecting that human connection with history, is that what makes this documentary powerful?
Well, the word history is mostly made up of the word story.
There you go.
Plus hi, which is a good way to begin a story, right? And I think, and I do not want to take away anything from our history teachers. Mm-hmm. We've taken out history. We've taken out civics. That's our fault, not the kids' fault. Mm-hmm. And so it's not that it's boring, is that it's now gotten to be a secondary rather than central subject. Yeah. If you don't know where you've been, you can't know where you are, and more importantly, where you're going. Mm-hmm. End of statement. And I think the extent to which teachers employ, and one of the unsung things is that none of this would happen any other place but public media. Like, none of my films over the last 50 years could have been made without public media.
Takes time.
The time that it does to do it, the labor intensity. I could go into any place and get the money I need from somebody else, but they wouldn't give me the time to do it. And so we're able to incubate this. We can able to be sure that this is, the best of us, that these are our director's cuts, and they haven't got a suit coming in making longer, shorter, sexier, less sexy, more violent, less violent, whatever the thing of the moment is. And so I think with regard to teachers, they're so happy to have, particularly now as we've moved into a visual medium where kids have a visual literacy, to be able to say, let me draw you into the Civil War by showing you the opening of this series. And it's about Wilmer McLean, who starts off with the first battle, and a Union shell goes down his kitchen, so he says, I got to move out of here. He moves far south and west of Richmond, out of harm's way, to a dusty crossroads called Appomattox Courthouse. And 3.5 years later, in his living room, Lee surrenders to Grant, and Wilmer McLean can rightfully say, the war began in my front yard and ended in my front parlor.
Wow.
That's a wow, right?
Yeah.
And there's not an 8th grader or any of us who wouldn't go, wow. And that's where the story comes in. And sometimes we're trying to hit marks about curriculums, and then the dates become not important signposts or anchors, tent flaps to things. You don't know who's in the tent. We want to tell you who's in the tent.
Are you happy with the finished product?
We're always fussing. We still got one. We still have one. We're going back, and we have one episode to mix and online. And Sarah and I, we locked this series back in January, and we have unlocked and changed little tiny things here. And nothing you'd notice. We're very happy with it. We're so excited to share it with you. We can't wait. And what's really clear is that there's a kind of bubbling up of enthusiasm that I haven't felt since our Civil War series. This is the time to know about it, to be reinforced with these ideas. Before people were subjects, now they're citizens. We figured out a way that everybody heretofore had been under an authoritarian rule, and that we invented all of these checks and balances, all these things that permitted us to live in a democratic society. It's really exhilarating, and it's more exhilarating because you know the phenomenal cost in blood and treasure and sacrifice that made it happen.
We don't like kings.
We don't like kings. Don't want kings. Yep. We figured that out early on. So.
Yeah. The American Revolution is a new documentary co-produced by Ken Burns and Sarah Botstein. It is set to premiere on November 16th. Ken and Sarah, thank you both so much for joining us on Hello Houston.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
After the break, we discuss our top headlines as Hello Houston continues. Stay with us.
Houston Public Media is rooted in our community. We show up at school board meetings, city council votes, and neighborhood events.
That's how you stay informed about what's happening around you through deep local reporting that brings clarity and insight.
Your support powers this public service, so Greater Houston stays informed, connected, and safe.
Support local journalism right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
It's one thing to love public radio, but it's a special thing to support it. Consider this. If you've got a car you don't need anymore, or you've got one that's simply too expensive to repair, you can arrange to donate it to Houston Public Media. We take any kind of vehicle in any condition. It's easy for you, pickup is free, and it could be worth hundreds of dollars in support. Visit houstonpublicmedia.org/cars to learn more. And thanks.
That's one of the reasons why House Republican leaders wanted to contain all of these provisions into one big, beautiful bill, because they wanted to force these lawmakers to take one single up or down vote, essentially on President Trump himself.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear The Daily. It's coming up tonight at 7 o'clock.
I'm Ira Glass. On This American Life, we bring you reports from the world's most dangerous battlefields.
Ow, stop that.
He's pinching your cheek right now.
Pressure pointing, actually.
Like the back seat of the family car. 3 brothers, with the oldest in the middle.
And basically, I'm the mediator. I'm actually not sure what mediator mean. I just felt like saying it.
Documenting the stories that don't fit into the daily news shows This American Life.
Wednesday night at 9 and Saturday morning at 11 on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Certa Pro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at certapro.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Guide to Good Divorce Seminars, created by attorney Trey Yates to help women navigate the divorce process. Saturday, June 14th at the St. Regis Hotel. Registration at guidetogooddivorce.com/radio.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah, I was saying to him when he was leaving the studio, the next film, Sarah doesn't need to do all this work. They just need to put a camera on Ken and let him tell a 12-hour story. I would be riveted to every moment.
And to our listeners, he's on a very tight schedule, so we had to let him go, but he could have filled the whole 2 hours.
We could have chatted.
I had so many questions that I want to ask him.
Yeah, I was 17 when the Ken Burns effect came out.
Explain what
Ken
that
Burns
is.
It's an effect where it slides when you're doing iMovie, when you're making a movie in iMovie, it slides through. It's like a graphic.
You take a still picture and you
Yeah.
make that still picture come to life by panning or zooming.
Yeah.
And I would
Ken
like to
Burns
ask what his opinion is of this AI stuff going on with still pictures.
Oh my gosh.
Because,
I love
you
that.
can make your grandfather look at you and smile. Does he like that?
I would
Or is
guess
that too
he
much?
probably doesn't.
Colorizing. You got Times Square in 1920. Now it's in color.
But something that he said that I thought was so interesting.
Hold that thought. I just want to remind the audience, if you weren't listening, Ken Burns was just on with us. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about Ken, like you all know who we're talking about.
Documentarian.
Yes, what you're saying, Celeste.
That I thought it was fascinating that he said he would not be able to do this type of work without public media.
Absolutely.
And we so often think of big blockbusters. We think of documentary. We think Netflix. I mean, PBS has set a foundation for and paved a way for documentary filmmakers.
Yeah.
By allowing time.
Well, he said he could go to Paramount and say, I need $30 million to make the Civil War. And they'd say, great, we need it in 3 months.
Right.
And PBS
and then he also
says,
made the comments about, and put more fighting here, more blood there, make it more. And PBS gives him a chance to develop the story, to incubate it. 10 years on this one
and
alone.
the star is the subject.
Yeah.
There's no star other than those people that created this when it actually happened. And that's,
and
it's so well done. I remember the Civil War when it came out in 1990. I saw it in its original. It's been redigitalized in 2015.
For people who don't remember, when that came out, that was appointment viewing. The nation was obsessed with this documentary, and he has continued with hit after hit. The other interesting thing is, so it takes 10 years to make this one, but that's not the only one he's working on at any given time, or else he'd have had 3 films in the last.
I tell you.
Yeah, so they've got, he's looking at other stories, he's looking at what's next, he works on these. It's just fascinating.
If you go and Google Ken Burns and the Mona Lisa, I guarantee you will never see the Mona Lisa the same way again. The descriptions, I know. I mean, he has a lot of little stuff.
I guess we all know what we're doing now.
But, you also said how, you told Sarah not to do all the work and that Ken can just talk about it. I think that we also have to look at the producers of this. And Sarah is the one who's going through all of these things.
Yeah.
And in my mind, as someone who is a producer for a long time and still a producer on the show, sometimes it's those that you want to have those side conversations with, that you say, okay, now tell me what you learned,
and what I wasn't
was crazy
saying
and surprising.
She shouldn't produce the film. I'm saying that
I know
he is so riveting as a storyteller, even without the photos and the letters and he so immerses himself in the subject and is so eloquent on it that you can just sit there and listen. He brings history to life.
Yeah.
If every teacher were like that, if every educator had that skill, just think how much more we'd be engaged in everything. he's a gift.
Well, I think that's
National
what
treasure.
he was saying, right? Is that he finds some of his best work in that he's supplementing and helping teachers get excited about these things, giving them these visuals.
And to the point you were making, that right now we're going through a lot of revisionist history, a lot of recreating what it should have felt like or should have been like. And he doesn't let that happen. He didn't really go down that path. But I think that's sort of what you were asking him. Because for this American Revolution to land at this particular moment in time is, I think, just the best timing you could ask for.
But he keeps landing at the right moment in time. I think that, somewhere some soul has been sold somewhere to get this success.
I don't know if I'm excited that I landed on this, but, this morning I recorded another episode of my podcast called Coffee with Shannon Watts, who is started Moms Demand Action. It is the largest gun reform advocacy group in the nation. And tomorrow is National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And that segment will air tomorrow, and you can hear my conversation with Shannon.
Synchronicity.
Look forward to it.
When it works. We're interested. If you're a huge fan of Ken Burns' documentaries, which one resonated with you? What are you looking forward to with the American Revolution? Give us a call. We'd love to chat with you. 713-440-8870.
So many YouTube comments. Pi Samaria, I love Ken Burns. Larry Dudek, great questions and discussion. Looking forward to seeing this new series. Thank you. My British computer guy.
That's Celeste's British computer guy.
Mine.
I love history documentaries. Can't wait for this one, the dark one. How about a Ken Burns documentary on Ken Burns? I don't think, he said in one interview, I would love to live for 3,000 years. I could just work for the next 3,000 years making documentaries about history. Yeah, which took. History takes us up to the last 5 seconds, right?
Yeah. It's what we're living in the moment.
Exactly.
He does have the ability, they both do, making me so excited to see this. I can't believe we have to wait till November.
I know.
It'll be worth the wait, though.
Should we do a PBS view party here at the station with us and I'll watch it?
Well, I think you should go down to the second floor and launch that thought, because it's a lot of work.
I think we should watch it together.
Yeah.
But you know what I know we can do?
Yes.
Once it premieres, we can have an American Revolution book club, quote unquote, right here on Hello Houston. I guess it'll probably air Sunday nights, so we can probably do it each Monday, and we can talk about what we learned and watch it and take it through with them.
That'd be very cool.
That is great.
Here we are producing on the fly.
Producing.
So it doesn't drop all at once.
Right, no, it'll come.
Okay, good.
No, it's old school.
We're old school.
That's cool.
Here.
I like it.
Right. But it will be available on the PBS app and on pbs.org. I don't know if they will place it all at once. We tend to at PBS give it all at once, but on broadcasts we do it week to week. So let's see. Or it could be stripped across a week.
Yes.
So we'll see. We'll figure it out.
And if you love PBS, you can become a member
Go for it.
PBS Passport. I got to tell you, I work here and I became a member of PBS Passport, and I love it because I get to watch all of my shows that I like.
Or just go to your congresspeople and say, don't cancel PBS funding, because it's
Do
this
both.
kind of fabulous stuff that comes out of it.
Do both.
And not to make this a pledge break, but here we go. The fact is, it's those donations that you give when you often wonder, where exactly does my money go? It goes to things like this, enabling us to have this programming available to you. It costs a lot of money to work 10 years on a documentary, the number of people employed, the research, the travel, all of that.
Yeah.
Your donations help make that possible. And we are a more enriched community, both locally and nationally, because programming like this exists. And at a time when it's under threat, as Frank said, reach out to your congressmen, senators, your elected officials, and let them know how significant and important this kind of work is. We all need it.
And
okay,
Ken,
there's my spot.
You know, and Ken works for you. He's not a Steve. I'm sure he has a good living, but he's not Steven Spielberg rich. He doesn't live in Hollywood.
We don't know. We don't know.
No, he lives in New Hampshire, and he doesn't want that life.
Yeah.
He really loves his craft and has been doing it since he was a kid, and it's why he went to school for. And I mean, he really is devoted to it.
And since we already introduced the idea, if you are feeling the urge to give and donate, just go to HoustonPBS.org and you'll find all the information there.
Yes.
By the way,
yes, I do want to read this.
Okay.
Chris Fitzgerald, and then we'll move on to weather. It says, I was a teacher the first time I was preparing a presentation for my class. This came up. Do you want to apply the Ken Burns effect? I swear I squealed like a kid. I love that, Chris.
That.
Thanks.
Well, you can tell we're excited about our first guest that was on the show today.
Yes.
And so we're a little giddy here. But
All right, Frank.
that rain,
You know what? I tell you, we had some storms yesterday.
You did warn us.
I did warn
up.
you, and there was even some flooding. It looks like we may see some scattered stuff again over the next day or two. More than anything, it's going to be hot, and it's going to get hazy, especially as we move into Friday and Saturday. So if you have any upper respiratory problems, make sure you pay attention to that.
Be safe.
Stay in the house. Yes. We got a lot more still to come on today's show. We're nowhere done. We've got things to do with your kids for the summer. We have a Tony nominee coming up in just a little bit, who was awarded in our own hometown with a Tommy tune. We'll talk to her in a bit. So much more to still come on today's show. But we missed it at the top of the show because Ken was already here. So Celeste, open us with our headlines.
So this is really quite alarming and kind of sad. A Houston Independent School District HISD teacher at Moreno Elementary School has been recommended for termination following parent allegations that the teacher locked several special needs students in a cabinet. The incident involved an autistic first grader among the students allegedly placed in a cabinet by their special education teacher. The child's mother, Mrs. Mejia, expressed shock and anger upon learning about the situation. Parents at Moreno Elementary received a voicemail from Principal Ruben Pineda stating, "Please be advised that a teacher has been temporarily reassigned pending the outcome of an internal investigation regarding a personal matter." HISD provided a statement that said the Houston Independent School District was made aware of an incident on May 22nd involving a special education teacher at Moreno Elementary School. The teacher was immediately put on leave and an investigation was initiated. Following a thorough review by district administrators, the teacher has been recommended for termination. We'd like to hear from you. Do you agree the teacher should be fired? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
On the surface, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know that
We
that's
don't know
a
the
question.
details.
But like Frank says, we don't know all the details, though I still can't find anything that justifies that behavior. I mean, Celeste, if you heard that was happening in one of your children's classrooms.
No, it is absolutely shocking and it's very upsetting. I think these are the types of stories that put parents on alert, and then we become ultra worried about every little thing. But the fact of the matter is this breaks my heart on both sides. It breaks my heart genuinely for obviously the parent and the child and the other children that were involved in the situation. But as somebody my sister is a special needs teacher in Colorado and works specifically with elementary students that have autism, I also think about that teacher and the situation they must have been in to feel the need to do something this drastic. And I think this type of situation reiterates, how are we supporting educators, especially special need educators, those that need support? Was there a teacher aide in there? Was this teacher by themselves? How many other students were in the classroom that were involved in this? And, I feel for educators genuinely, because I know that we continue to pull back some of their resources and support, especially we're looking at special education. And I also greatly feel for the parents and all the students involved in that classroom, because this doesn't just affect those students. Right. It affects every single parent in there. It affects every single teacher at Moreno Elementary. All the teachers are have questions.
And it affects that child for the rest of that child's life.
And it affects the child.
I was never locked in a cabinet by my teacher, but I can guarantee you, I remember when I was sent to the corner, I was in first grade, and I was talking too much, which you might imagine.
I can't imagine.
She said, "Frank, you go stand in the corner," and I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I mean, but can you imagine being locked in a cabinet?
Again, I want to go back to what you said a moment ago. We don't know the details of it. We can assume that they are not going to justify the behavior because they have recommended termination.
Absolutely.
So that tells you that there's probably something there. But I would like to know, I would like to understand the moment, why that teacher felt that way, why they did what they did. Was it, you even made a comment, Frank, a few minutes ago. Was it storms were coming and they overreacted to something?
Put them in safety, but I don't know if that's what happened. That's all we need to know, the details. And they won't give us the details. I mean, so I don't even know how the parent found out about this unless the child went home and said something.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's so hard as a parent. And that's why I feel for these parents, because, when you have a kindergartner or you have a special needs child, or even sometimes my third grader, now now 4th grader, is not super clear. But we do know children really don't lie. They make up stories, but they don't lie.
No.
Usually, if a child tells you something that is kind of out of the norm, they're usually telling you the truth. That you should. I'm a firm believer. I think we need to listen to women when they say that something is off, and we need to listen to children. And so
we have a text from a retired special ed teacher saying the behaviors can be extreme, but the teacher's actions do not warrant locking a child up.
Yes, and I think we all agree, hard, full stop, that was unacceptable to lock a child.
If anyone listens to anything on this show, Celeste's nuanced response to this, I think we should all listen to. It's remembering the stress that these teachers are under. It does not justify this behavior in any way, but there are lower level incidents that happen that are of concern, and we've got to support people that we put in high stress situations, but also they can't step over the line.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's go on to Frank. What have you got for me?
This is interesting. The United States Postal Service is reporting a rise in dog attacks. I know. You always think about the dog biting the postman.
But I guess it happens.
Apparently more and more. Texas ranked second with more than 400 incidents, falling behind California, which had 700. Houston has the second highest number, of course, right after Los Angeles. It seems like we're always following Los Angeles. Pollution, dog bites, whatever. So according to the USPS, there were 65 recorded dog bites or attacks in Houston against postal workers in 2024. That marks the second year in a row that we ranked second. And while the number of attacks in Houston increased from the 57 in 2022, when Houston led the country for the 5th time in 6 years, we remain now in second place. I'm not sure. It's kind of splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
Dog hairs, I guess. But the USPS is reminding dog owners to please remember that attacks like that are preventable. They recommend securing your dogs before your mail carrier arrives or keeping your dog on leash. I don't know what your opinion is on this. If you care to share it, 713-440-8870. It seems pretty obvious. Mail carriers have always had this problem.
Yeah.
Always. When I was a boy, the dogs would chase the mail carrier.
And I always have the memories of childhood of dogs chasing cars up and down the street.
Yeah.
It's always like, what do they do when they catch it? When they catch a mailman, they bite him.
Well, certainly can.
So.
I've known people attacked by dogs. Yeah. And these were like dogs on a leash that got away from their owner.
Yeah.
That's not so good.
I don't know if I can comment. I don't have a dog. I didn't really grow
You don't have a mailman?
up with a dog. I actually don't have a mailbox. That's a long story. But yes, my mailman is not happy with me. But, I do think that people have to be responsible for their pets. And
course,
our male men and women are going out there, and that is an important.
It's not just that; it's Amazon delivery
service.
and DoorDash delivery.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of delivery
People that
these
come to
days.
your home.
That's a second nature now, is to have something delivered.
Totally.
Because it's sometimes sort of safer for you at 10 o'clock at night to have a pizza delivered than to go out and try to get one. And so with that in mind, you really have to at least take your responsibility to making sure that these people are safe.
It's time for a quick Ernie story, and then we'll move on.
Yes, I love an Ernie
little
story.
kid, next door neighbors had a dog, Brandy. Brandy was the most aggressive, angry. They couldn't even take it in the house because they had kids, so they kept him in the fenced-in backyard. But for some reason, Brandy loved me, and I would go by the fence and pet Brandy, but nobody else get near the dog. One day, I got off the school bus, and a pack of dogs was there. This sounds really weird because we lived in a nice little suburban area, but these dogs, and they started chasing me, and I ran, and I didn't know what to do, so I ran to the cage where Brandy was, and Brandy turned and barked at those dogs, and those dogs stopped and left.
Wow.
I don't know. That's my memory of it. It seems a little far-fetched, but that's how I remember, and I always loved that dog, Brandy.
That is so sweet.
Brandy
I think
saved me.
Brandy saved you, Ernie. Every person, I have a childhood memory of our neighbor's dog. We didn't have one, but our neighbor's dog was a little Jack Russell Terrier, and his name was Tripper, and he was the meanest little dog.
This text, a lot of people walk with their dogs off leash.
Don't do that.
They always attack my leashed dog when I walk him. They think they have control of their dog, but they don't. Very disrespectful. A friend of mine's own dog on a leash was attacked and killed by an off-leash dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a
dog on
producer.
leash.
He was a producer at Channel 2.
Yeah. I watch a lot of Judge Judy. She would get very upset with people who don't have their dogs on a leash. Have them on a leash.
That's
Remember
right.
that.
Judge
And hold the
Judy.
leash.
And
sometimes
also,
they can get away from you.
Remember, it's a hard job to be a delivery person out there in today's day and age. Do what you can to make their jobs easier.
Show them some love. Leave them a bottle of water. It's getting hot.
And you want your mail.
And you want your mail.
So
I
there.
lived in a country, Mexico, mail service is kind of iffy. And I lived in Mexico in high school. And I remember realizing, oh my gosh, this is a service that we just get as Americans.
Yep, we just take it for granted.
God bless America. Coming up on Hello
That's why we had a revolution.
That's right. Watch it on PBS in November. Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll give you 5 fun ways to keep your kids learning over the summer. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
If you're in the business of kids entertainment, Utah County, Utah is a pretty good place to be.
They're like, you have 2 50,000 square foot parks within 20 minutes of each other. Aren't you guys in competition with yourself? And it's like, nope.
I'm Kai Rizdal, the business of bouncing. Next time on Marketplace.
You can hear Marketplace coming up tonight. It's on at 6:30.
The Tang Tang's newest album is a hard pivot from what you might expect. But the duo says they're grateful for the love people still have for their old music.
It's just constantly being used all around the world, and that makes it so we can make music that we want.
I'm Juana Summers. Hear more on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Did you know 80% of our funding comes from listeners like you, right here in Houston? That's why your support is so important. When you give to Houston Public Media, you're investing in trusted news and educational programming that millions depend on daily. Every dollar you give makes a difference, ensuring this public service stays strong for everyone in our community. Help us support this mission. Give today at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
Houston Public Media presents the Moth Grand Slam, June 10th at the Heights Theater. Doors open at 7 p.m. It's the Grand Slam Championship, a battle of wits and words. Tickets at houstonpublicmedia.org/themoth.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello, Houston. For many Houston ISD parents, today is the first official day of summer for kids and families. And students are at risk of losing a significant amount of academic information over the course of summer break if they do not continue learning during these months. However, learning experts from the international humanitarian organization Save the Children developed 5 fun ways to keep kids learning over the summer. These are family activities that parents can do with their children to keep their minds growing during these next summer months. Joining us now to tell us more about these activities is Militza Mezquita, the Texas State Director of Save the Children. Militza, welcome to Hello Houston. Oh, sorry, we can't hear you, Militza. 1 second.
Yeah, we're going to adjust that. You want to say hello again?
Can you hear me now?
There we are. Thank you.
Hi, Militza.
Hello there. You know, before we even get into the interview, I just want to say Save the Children, Christmas Carols and Festive Song, double CD that came out back in the 90s, still a classic, and still, if you can get a hold of it, it supports Save the Children. So there's my plug. Now, real talk.
That's great. So, Militza, what do you all see as experts as we look into our summer months? I mean, I think it's pretty common sense. Kids are not in their regular academic schedules every single day. What can parents do if they haven't signed their kids up already for a million camps?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about family engagement. We tell our parents, you are your child's first educator. And so any moment can be taken over the summer to keep kids engaged in education, right? We want to avoid that summer slide where kids get back to school and they just don't remember what happened in the past year. So we tell parents, even if it's something as simple as going to the grocery store, there's opportunities everywhere to learn. So you can count how many strawberries are in the container. You can count how many cucumbers you're putting into the bag. You can also look at the different colors in the grocery store. There's just really good opportunities for families over the summer to engage in these little pieces of learning, whether it's literacy, numeracy, even if you're cooking a meal, have your kids engage in that. How many scoops of this does it take? There's so many opportunities, little opportunities that don't take a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of thought or materials to engage kids in opportunities to learn throughout the summer, especially since it's hot outside, so we might want to stay indoors. But there's just a lot of fun things parents can do. We can read a book with our kids in the evening when it's a little cooler. We can go over fun family history. So maybe we have grandparents or aunts and uncles in other countries. We can talk about how far those countries are, what are those countries' cultures, just different things to keep kids engaged in learning.
Wow, that's some really good information. And of course, grocery stores have prices, and you can teach math by using prices, saying if we get 2 cucumbers and they're 12 cents each or whatever.
And tariffs.
And tariffs, and add in that.
No.
So do you have a website, or how do you get this information out to parents?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is savethechildren.org/keepkidslearning, and you can find all of our tips, some resources on there. That way parents have some supports throughout the summer. So kids aren't sitting there, parents aren't sort of frustrated, and we can keep that learning engaging over the summer months.
Now, you mentioned quite a few activities like grocery shopping, as we just talked about with Frank, and you also talked about reading at night. Now, those are kind of some things that we would do regularly during the school year. What are the 5 fun ways that you all develop specifically that parents during the summer, because a grocery store shopping can take like an hour and a half, and then you're like, well,
some people escape to go to the grocery.
That didn't go so fast. That didn't take up that much time. What are the 5 key fun ways that you all have developed? What are those?
Absolutely. So ours is bringing a book to life. So we read the book with the kid throughout the school year, throughout the summer, and then why not have a playtime with them, right? So maybe dad gets home, mom gets home, and then it's time to act it out. We read the book, we understood the book. So let's develop some scenes and a little bit of a play at home. That way kids have something to look forward to. It's like a little mini project for them. They can dress up, maybe bring the neighbors, grandparents over, and they can act that out for mom, dad, or family. The other thing is cooking. Sometimes we're just on the go and we don't have time, but engaging kids in cooking over the summer. 1, we're learning about healthy choices, and 2, it gives kids an opportunity to engage in how our meals are prepared and made. It also includes math and colors. Also, how to prepare a recipe. What are those steps, right? Processes. Letters of the day. So even when you wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, we're going to set a goal today. Today, we are going to find 10 things that start with the letter A. And that can be, during a little bit of appropriate screen time. That can be during outdoor play. That could be during free play time. The 4th thing is our fun. We call it Shape Up. Let's look for 10 shapes today. So maybe we found 5 circles outside, or maybe we found 3 triangles inside. Really looking at our home environment or wherever we are this summer and just finding really great ways to incorporate a little bit of literacy and a little bit of numeracy. And then lastly, our favorite one is just, what is your family history, right? Taking those opportunities that our kiddos are home and really engaging in our own family history, what that means, who we are, and what does our family bring to the table and to the community.
You know what I love? You're talking about these activities, and as I'm sitting there, I know this summer a lot of parents are opting in for road trips, and you could apply all of these things on a road trip. And let me tell you, you start grasping at straws on road trips.
Well, and I have one. We used to do was find the license plate.
Yes.
And how many different states are represented, especially on road trips. But even in Houston, there are so many different people from different places here, and fun. You can find the license plate and then compare how well they drive or not.
We used to have a book called 1 Minute Mysteries. I'm sure they still publish it. And they were a page and a half, and one of us would read it, and then you had to solve the mystery, and the answer was at the bottom.
Brown,
right, but they were only 1 minute long. And so then you would talk in the car about, well, who could have done that? And it was just fun things. So thank you for spurring all that thought in all of us on these ideas.
Yes, and one last time, where can people find your information?
Sure, absolutely. savethechildren.org/keepkidslearning.
Militza Mezquita is the Texas State Director for Save the Children. Militza, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll continue diving in today's top stories. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Rice University's Baker Institute, offering a forum for informed, nonpartisan, civic-minded engagement on the most pressing issues facing Texas, the U.S., and the world. More information about becoming a member is at bakerinstitute.org/membership. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, a night of mystery and intrigue with a new season of Father Brown at 7, followed by the Sister Boniface Mysteries at 8, and Death in Paradise at 9. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, or stream online.
We could see an afternoon shower. Currently it's 86. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll talk with Abbie Kamin, Houston City Council member from District C, who'll discuss yesterday's vote on the mayor's controversial city budget and why she voted no. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk to the star of Boop the Musical and Tony Award nominee Jasmine Amy Rogers about tomorrow's Tommy Tune Awards here in Houston. Miss Rogers was also a former Tommy Tunes winner.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Plus, we'll learn more about the Houston-based Vitaka Ballet and its founder, artistic director.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870. Or you can email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on your YouTube channel. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. President Trump says he was surprised by the sharp criticism from tech billionaire Elon Musk of the massive tax cut and spending package backed by the White House. The president spoke to reporters in the Oval Office just a short time ago.
I've always liked Elon, and it's always very surprised. You saw the words he had for me, and he hasn't said anything about me that's bad. I'd rather have him criticize me than the bill, because the bill is incredible.
In a post on social media, Musk mocked lawmakers for cutting electric vehicle and solar incentives by keeping oil and gas subsidies intact. He also made a crack, saying there's never been legislation in history that has been both big and beautiful, adding that, quote, "Slim and beautiful is the way." The Supreme Court has ruled that the Mexican government cannot sue U.S. gun makers for violence carried out by its drug cartels. The decision stems from a 20-year-old law that gives the American gun industry broad immunity from the harms that firearms cause during criminal activity. NPR's Meg Anderson reports.
The Mexican government argued before the Supreme Court that U.S. gun makers have helped supply Mexican drug cartels with firearms. A 2005 law shields the American gun industry from these kinds of lawsuits. But Mexico said the firearm manufacturers, which include Smith & Wesson and 6 others, knew about the illegal trafficking of their products, and that gave them grounds to sue. The court didn't buy it. In the unanimous decision, Justice Elena Kagan wrote that Mexico's complaint does not plausibly allege that the gun manufacturers aided and abetted sales to Mexican traffickers. 70% of firearms recovered in Mexico in recent years came from the United States. Meg Anderson, NPR News.
A U.S. private aid group distributing food in Gaza says it's reopened 2 of its sites after pausing operations following deadly shootings near their centers. NPR's Carrie Kahn reports from Tel Aviv.
According to a statement from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF, the temporary halt in food distribution was due to, quote, maintenance and repair work. Nearly every day since the newly formed group of U.S. contractors began distributing food, deadly shootings have occurred near their sites. Israel's military says troops have opened fire on groups of people straying from designated routes. The International Red Cross and other health officials report dozens of Palestinians have been killed near the sites. The UN UN says Israel continues to change security restrictions and authorizations on their trucks and personnel, greatly limiting the amount of food and supplies getting into Gaza to, quote, a trickle. Carrie Kahn, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
On Wall Street, the Dow is down a point. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. Houston says they plan to provide extra security after an incident yesterday that sent several people to the hospital. News 88.7's Matt Harrop explains.
Officials say someone sprayed mace on the Metro Red Line train at the Preston station downtown. 3 people in total were hospitalized. Witnesses described people banging on the doors of the train, trying to get the attention of those outside. Metro police say they're still looking for the suspect. This comes just a few weeks after a man was shot aboard a Metro bus in South Houston. Metro says it's putting more police officers on trains and buses in response.
That's News 88.7's Matt Harrop reporting. Months after officials first detected traces of toxic chemicals outside of a Fifth Ward community center, the Environmental Protection Agency says new soil tests returned safe levels. News 88.7's Sarah Grunow reports.
Weston Solutions, an environmental company contracted by the Protection Agency, took dozens of samples at the Julie C. Hester House in Fifth Ward. The results show no risk of dioxin exposure in the green space. Commissioner Rodney Ellis said he was satisfied with the new results and plans to remove the fences in the green space that separate areas where the soil samples were taken.
This is a community that has been neglected, overlooked, underserved for many years. So I fully understand apprehension that people may have.
Dioxins are highly toxic chemicals that can cause cancer and damage to the immune system. I'm Sarah Grunow, News 88.7.
Coolish temperatures today, a high of around 91 degrees this afternoon. 30% chance of showers in between 3 and 4 o'clock. Tomorrow is when we can expect the uncomfortable heat to return. High of just 93 tomorrow afternoon. However, the humidity, it'll feel closer to around 104 degrees. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, home of the Name Your Price tool, so drivers can see coverage options at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, the noontime hour.
Almost Friday.
Almost Friday.
You're thinking about the noontime hour. I'm thinking about Friday.
I'm always thinking about lunchtime.
The first hour flew by.
It did. But we got a busy hour this hour, too.
We have a very busy hour this hour.
You know, what I'm really curious about this weekend, I know you made reference to it. What am I getting this weekend weather-wise? I want to go out and clean the garage. I don't like it when it's too humid. I don't like it when it's raining.
I think you're going to get more heat and haze than rain.
Okay.
But we're looking at like 96, 97 by Sunday. So like really hot. I know. We just had that NPR news report, and she said, coolish 91 for today. I think, well, it's all relative. It's all relative.
Welcome to Texas.
Coming up in this hour, we're very excited. We have Jasmine Amy Rogers, who won a Tommy Tune Award, which is the local high school musical awards that they give every year. They're doing it tomorrow night again for this year's awards at the Hobby Center. But what's really cool about Jasmine is she took that Tommy Tune and ran, and this year she is nominated for a Tony Award.
We'll find out
for
Sunday.
Starring on Broadway in Boop the Musical. It's a great story. She just won in 2017 as a high school student. What is it, 8 years later? She's starring on Broadway. She's going to be with us in a little bit to chat about that.
And she's a Houstonian.
Isn't that great?
I love seeing
I love celebrating local
out
talent.
there. Absolutely.
But, as always.
Like us, for instance.
Like them.
If you're not watching on YouTube,
you're missing quite a show every day. day. Anyway, Celeste, start us off with the headlines.
Yes, after an 8-hour meeting and extended disruption by protesters on Wednesday, Houston City Council approved a $7 billion budget for the next fiscal year, which starts in July. Council members offered 71 amendments to the budget. 14 of them were approved, including hiring additional animal enforcement officers, extra funding for kennel cleaning at the city's animal shelter, drainage and ditch improvements, and the creation of an investment fund to address health benefits and life insurance for retired city employees. Facing a more than $200 million deficit this year, Whitmire's administration slashed about $75 million in spending from the city's $3 billion general fund. Joining us now is Houston City Council member from District C, Abbie Kamin. She represents Greater Heights, University Place, Meyerland area, Braeswood, Midtown, to name a few. She also voted no on the mayor's budget. If you have a question for City Councilwoman Abbie Kamin, you can give us a call now at 713-440-8870. City Councilwoman, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So busy day for you yesterday, huh?
Yeah.
So
it was, and we're continuing. We had some more committee meetings this morning, so the work continues.
So friendly fire here, but you were one of 3 city council members that voted against the budget, which left how many that voted for it?
We have a council of 16. So including the mayor, there were 3 of us that voted no on this budget, as you said. So overwhelming majority did vote in favor of it.
And you were kind of like, please don't hate me, but I'm saying no. So tell us why you don't want, what do you say? I mean, I got to give it to the mayor. We were at like $330 million, and we've really reduced that default. I know we had to go into our rainy day fund a little bit for it, but he's gotten rid of a lot of that debt.
Yes and no. Remember, coming into office, though, into my second term, we also had a much larger reserve fund balance, and we actually went negative before coming back up. So it's not just where we are, it's how much have we spent of those reserves in the past year alone. And I think that deserves some attention. But this was a really hard decision for me. I have never voted against a budget in my career, but I have been raising concerns throughout the entire budget process. We have committee hearings, right, throughout quote unquote budget season at City Hall. But I've been sounding the alarm that we are not fully prepared for the extreme weather and storms that we know are coming. And as literally we were voting on this budget, parts of Houston were flooding from the rain yesterday alone, just for a few hours. And now the risk to our city is magnified by the federal budget cuts and the chaos that is ensuing at the federal level, the mismanagement and gutting of FEMA, the National Weather Service. We have had science experts, meteorologists warning that we may not be able to accurately predict hurricanes and where they're going, but there's nothing in the budget to account for the potential lack of funding, including significant funding that the city has already lost. Remember, the derecho, which significantly impacted my district, one of the hardest hit, cost the city over $35 million. Hurricane Beryl, $59 million. We had 3 federally declared disasters in a single year last year. You mentioned the rainy day fund, but we had drawn down on all the reserves from that, and we're not even fully replenishing our rainy day fund. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, what else were you going to do? I mean, did you have a solution to this?
I did. I proposed putting forward an amendment to fully fund our rainy day fund. But unfortunately, action on that was deferred for several months. And as we continue to work, say that one more time.
How are you going to fund it? I mean, it's a great idea, but how are you going to do it?
Yeah, so our rainy day fund, it's called the Budget Stabilization Fund, and it requires a minimum of right now $20 million, which we know is too low. When this was set in years past, way back when, that may have been enough, but we know it's not now. My amendment would have increased the amount and then required that we're fully replenishing it every year within 365 days. Right now, the city is only required to fill it within 2 years if you draw down. Again, with so many storms and extreme weather events that we're having, that's just not enough. My amendment actually pulled down from the reserve fund. Our general fund has a reserve, and it would have moved these dollars over, which keeps it in reserves, but protects it, walls it off so that it's saved for an emergency or a natural disaster. When the funds just sit in the general fund reserve balance, you can use them on important things like overtime funding, which the city will plan to do and continue to draw down. When you see water main breaks and we have to tap into it. So it's that reserve, but it can be used for a host of things. If we're not protecting some of those dollars for an emergency, we are not being fiscally responsible.
Had you gotten that amendment, would you have then been a yes on the budget, or was there more to it for you?
I think that there's more to it. I don't want to say I'd be an absolute no. I take all of this very seriously. I work with all of my colleagues. I was working with the administration on this. I've been very upfront the entire time about how uncomfortable I am with where we are. We're putting Houstonians at risk, failing to account for extreme weather and disaster needs. Part of the problem with that, and one of the other things I wasn't comfortable with, is when a storm hits, literally, City of Houston departments are not budgeting in their annual budget for emergency and natural disaster costs. So when a disaster hits, what essential services will need to be cut in order for us to respond? Because we absolutely have to respond. But where's that money going to come from? And that can mean additional cuts. And we were not being straight about where those cuts would come from.
You're listening to Hello Houston, and we're speaking with City of Houston Council member from District C, Abbie Kamin. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. Moving forward, the budget has been passed. What do you see is next for you and for your district? Because I do understand your area, like you said, often gets hit hard. We understand the Mireland it's a historical area that gets hit often and hard.
Yeah, I represent the most repetitively flooded areas, not only in the entire city, pretty much in the entire region, if not the state. And the greater Mireland, Old Braeswood area is what has made national headlines. And we have made progress there, but not enough. But in other storms, just like yesterday, there's other examples where you have just a daily Houston thunderstorm, and there's places in the Heights that are even flooding right now. And it's called the Heights for a reason. It's the highest level in the city, but there are areas that are flooding. So I'm continuing to push and advocate and secure as many dollars as humanly possible for responsible drainage improvements and infrastructure to protect homes, protect businesses, and ensure that Houston can keep thriving. But getting those investments is critical.
And isn't that what's known as the neighborhood budget you're talking about for ditch and drainage? Is that what you wanted to see more money pushed into?
There's several different buckets in terms of council funding. There's the district fund, but that can only fund a few projects a year. Safe sidewalks and crossings around schools. Drainage really takes a much larger investment, and that's where other buckets of funds like the Stormwater Action Team, it's an acronym, but basically that's your $1 million+ range of drainage. We've gotten some additional projects that way, but we also need to be going to other entities and getting them to invest as well. Our partners in the region as well as at the county, but also our TURS, Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone. They are able to fund a lot of the infrastructure that the city is not currently able to fund right now. So it's working with partners, coming up with solutions, and we are having some success. Previously, a lot of those federal dollars were helping us in terms of funding these programs and projects, specifically to reduce flooding and protect neighborhoods. A lot of that is being cut, a lot of that is being changed, and we don't know where those projects are going to stand either.
Do you think that some of the federal cuts that have happened are going to affect us negatively? I mean, are we in trouble because of those cuts? Because we're kind of known as a blue city.
We're already in trouble. I think the city has been doing not a good job at being very clear about what is happening right now. The health department, half of the budget, pretty much in terms of programs and services, relies on federal grants. That has been slashed in half. There have been layoffs. We are having to reduce vaccine availability in terms of our mobile vaccine units. We're having to cut back hours. There's certain grants we can't even now fund 2 of our city facility projects because of cuts to federal funding. Even if you take it a step over into Congress, Congress wasn't able to include in the continuing resolution our requests for funding for the districts. We've been working very closely with Congresswoman Fletcher, but none of the 25 requests for funding were included in the continuing resolution. So our shot at even drawing down federal dollars for those localized projects has been cut. Then you go over to FEMA. Then you go over to NOAA and the National Weather Service, and they're not even able to deploy, I was reading, enough weather balloons to track where storms are coming. So we don't have experts on the ground. We aren't able to leverage everything that we used to be able to rely on. And even in Missouri and Arkansas, it took over 2 months to get a federal declaration for disaster. That can significantly endanger Houstonians.
Now, Councilwoman Kamin, a big portion of the mayor's budget is going towards public safety. How does your district fall in regards to public safety in your neighborhoods in your area?
Yeah, I look at public safety holistically, and we appreciate, and I work very closely with our police department and our fire department. Public safety remains a top priority. And one of the budget amendments that I did pass, was able to pass and put forward with my colleague, Councilmember Amy Peck, related to supporting and bolstering the fire department's wildland group, which is doing incredible work, not just for the city of Houston, but actually coming to the aid of other areas throughout the country. But public safety also means enabling the city to function in a way where we do not strain our law enforcement resources. When police are having to play the role of inspectors in the Department of Neighborhoods or inspectors for public works, that is drawing away public safety resources, police resources, away from addressing the urgent needs that we need them to be focused on.
Well, a lot of these drainage and ditch budgets come out of our water bill. Mm-hmm. True?
So some of it does. That is correct. And there was a settlement.
I'm worried about our water bills going up because we need more money for drainage and ditches.
That was one of the concerns that the controller actually raised, is that there's you're seeing on your bill an increase. Now, some of that was passed previously. We're under a consent decree, if you recall, with the EPA, because we haven't been investing enough in our sewage and wastewater. And what's happening is you're seeing all these sewage overflows. And I know that because I'm getting those calls. District C had some of the highest numbers. So those rates are matched to that. But I want to remind residents, and I'm very concerned about affordability as well here, is, again, we head into a more chaotic economic environment right now, whether it's because of tariffs and other things that are happening. Houstonians are being very careful, and should be. I am as well, about my dollars and where my money is going. With water, it's important to remember that under state law, the city of Houston cannot profit off of water services. It is a health-based service. You are only able to recoup expenditures and costs. Now, how can we mitigate some of those costs? Addressing the water leaks holistically, addressing a lot of our infrastructure that is seriously outdated. That's where a lot of those dollars are going.
And, the Kinder Institute at Rice recently heard from 1,200 Houstonians through a survey that came right after John Whitmire released his proposed budget. And the survey found that not just how Houstonians want to spend their money, but that they're willing to pay more in taxes and fees if they are ensuring that certain things like infrastructure and drainage is being addressed, now the mayor's proposed budget did not address that. How are you going to breach that with your constituents, your area, given that this budget has been passed?
Yeah, I'm going to listen, as I was elected to do, to the residents of my district. And that's my number one job, besides keeping everyone safe and advocating for safety and protecting Houstonians. There is a concern because of several things. Because of when our fiscal year is, as it pertains to the budget, and I raised this yesterday as well as the day before, we go off of assumptions of assessed values. Those actual numbers do not come out until the fall. So we're making a guess on where we think assessed property values are going to be that says, no, we don't need to raise the tax rate or increase taxes in the city of Houston. And I have voted the majority of my career to actually decrease taxes. But we're basing everything on assumptions, not the actual numbers. And I also raised the point that we should probably be looking at moving our fiscal year so that it lines with the actual numbers and reports. We're not speculating. However, the city of Houston is under the most restrictive revenue cap, pretty much the largest one in the entire country for a city of our size, most restrictive in the state of Texas. Now, all local jurisdictions are under a statewide revenue cap, and I support that. But ours goes even farther, and we have lost billions of dollars since 2015 as a result of this cap, and it only saves Houstonians approximately $100 a year. Now, again, this was a voter-imposed cap, and I'm going to defer and respect the will of the voters. But what are we doing to communicate what city services we're providing, what those dollars that we are using are getting people, and what, let's say, an extra $1 would be or extra $5 would be? And let's have that conversation. The same thing goes, for example, with our trash pickup. Trash is delayed. We are... my house looks like an Amazon warehouse from not getting recycling picked up because it's backing up so much. But when we have had the number of disasters that we've had, the wear and tear on those trucks is not something that was planned for. So now we're having to play catch up with our vehicles, and we're losing out on personnel because we're not able to pay enough. And let's say those drivers that we're training are then going to Metro or to a commercial company. So we have to remain competitive, and we have to have a conversation. If fees are going to be implemented, though, I think it's very important, in addition to hearing from residents and Houstonians about what they want to see, we have to make sure that those dollars are being specifically allocated to the purpose we're saying it for, whether that's in a protected fund or however we formulate it. It can't just go into the general fund and sit there for any use. We need to be accountable to the voters and to Houstonians. And that goes back to the original question, which is how are we conveying and talking to residents about what these dollars are getting us and what we're missing out on?
Speaking of talking to residents, we had a text that came in that said, for the council member, how much revenue can we generate if we stop giving tax subsidies to corporations?
So I'm not sure exactly what subsidies the texter is.
If I had to guess, I would say that they're talking about when to attract businesses and corporations into our area. We drop a lot of taxes. We move things to make it more convenient for them to come into our area. If we stopped doing that, we have an attractive area, I believe, as it is. Could we generate revenue that way?
There may be some, but I think there's other things we need to be looking at as well. I think ensuring a thriving economy and global economy in Houston is what Houston is all about. We are the energy capital of the world. So yes, I think we are thriving as is, but I don't want to give an absolute yes or no. I think that there's certain circumstances. When it comes to revenue generation, though, we should be looking at every opportunity while making sure that we're keeping things affordable for Houston.
Mm-hmm. Last question I have here. The newsroom sent this over to us. We just received word that construction workers hit bricks in the 4th Ward, Freedmanstown. City departments are supposed to have additional measures in place. Do you know if the bricks in Freedmanstown were recently damaged?
I was out there as soon as we got word. So in my office, there's some history behind this. So for listeners that don't know, the bricks in Freedmanstown are not only a protected landmark, they are a cherished part of the city's history. These are bricks that were laid by freed individuals that were settling in Freedmanstown. So this is something that is not only near and dear to the neighborhood, but to the city of Houston. And in previous years, prior to being in office, there were instances where construction workers were doing improvements, again, really old infrastructure, and the neighborhood deserves attention. So some streets where there aren't bricks, we are getting that infrastructure improved. But they mistakenly hit several years ago a bunch of the bricks and started lifting them up. So we created in our office basically a policy. If we get a call from a neighbor that says, they've hit the bricks or there's work happening, something's happening with the bricks, we go out immediately, and our office is instructed, if you have to lay down in the street to stop the work, lay down in the street. So until we can figure out what's happening and get archaeological experts there on scene. Unfortunately, literally the night before the budget, we get one of those calls. There is construction in the area, and it looks like a contractor did hit some of the bricks. And started to remove them. So we made it out there. We working with the Public Works Department and that area's TURS and the neighborhood. And huge shout out to Sharonda Johnson, who we call fondly the mayor of Freedmanstown. She was out there and saw it happen. That's how we got the call. But we were able to get them to stop work till we could figure it out. We worked with the contractors to get overnight security to stay by the bricks. Because again, once the media started covering it, I love our journalists. My family is a family of journalists, but of course that brought more attention, and we didn't want somebody going and taking one for themselves. So we got security out there, and we've actually been working even throughout the day today for the plan on how to safely move them. The bricks have now been moved to a secure facility. The ones that were unearthed and moved and damaged, we keep them at a special facility because, again, there's several years prior to me being in office, there's also those bricks that were removed. And they're protected there until they can be installed back into the streets in a safe way. So we're in the process of that. We have another meeting tomorrow with the Freedmanstown Conservancy, the TURS, Public Works, and archaeological experts to make sure moving forward with this construction, while they were supposed to have some additional redundancies in place already, we want to make sure that's being followed to a T moving forward.
Excellent. Houston,
never a dull moment.
Never in the city of Houston City Council member from District C, Abbie Kamin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Coming up on Hello Houston, the Tommy Tune Awards celebrate Houston's most talented high school theater performers. Coming up, we'll talk to former winner and star of Boop the Musical and Tony Award nominee Jasmine Amy Rogers. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Craig Cohen, the host of Houston Matters. Join me weekday mornings at 9 or at your leisure on your podcast feed for your daily guide to the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. From politics to the economy, energy to the environment, healthcare to education to transportation and beyond. If it matters to Houston, it matters to us. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts or live on the air weekdays at 9 a.m. right here on News 88.7.
It's more important than ever to stay informed. That's why Houston Public Media delivers well-researched news that's free for everyone.
And right now, your support helps make sure it stays that way. No subscription, no paywall, just news that's here when you need it.
Give today to keep yourself and your community informed, no matter what the future holds.
Make your donation now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Or call 888-909-0887.
Next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour, the politics of autism and the dangers posed by misinformation.
You will do anything to help your child. So if it means a bleach enema and you think that's going to help them, you'll do it. And it's not because these people don't love their children. It's because they're desperate.
I'll talk with autism scientist Alicia Halliday next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour.
You can hear it Sunday morning at 9 o'clock.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, a night of mystery and intrigue with a new season of Father Brown at 7, followed by the Sister Boniface Mysteries at 8, and Death in Paradise at 9. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, or stream online.
Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to Dr. Mary Aitken, who is focused on keeping children safe from preventable injuries through research, education, and advocacy. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The Tommy Tune Award celebrates Houston's most talented high school theater performers. Created and produced by Theater Under the Stars, the ceremony honors students that work on and off the stage. To tell us more about the event happening on June 6th at the Hobby Center, that's just tomorrow already, we welcome... Okay, this is cool. She happens to be the star of Boop the Musical, Jasmine Amy Rogers, who is a Tommy Tune Award nominee and a Tony Award nominee, and in fact was a Tommy Tune Award winner just a few years back. Hello there.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for having me.
We'll get into all of that in a minute. I also want to welcome Jacob Shideler, who is the Education Director or Director of Education and Community Engagement at Theater Under the Stars. Welcome to you, too.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for
Though
having
you're
me
not
here.
nominated for a Tony, so
No.
I'm going to talk to Jasmine.
Absolutely, I would too.
So, Jasmine, it was just a few years ago that you were here at the Hobby Center, and you won the Tommy Tune Award for playing the witch, if I'm not mistaken, in Into the Woods, correct? For which high school?
That's right.
What was your high school?
Stephen F. Austin High School.
Nice. You went from there because the winners of the Tommy Tunes go on to another awards in New York. What's that?
The Jimmy Awards, the National High School Musical Theater Awards. Yes.
And then from the Jimmy Awards, you are launched into this professional career. And just a few years later, you are starring on Broadway in Boop the Musical as Betty Boop, and you're nominated for a Tony Award.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, I will say.
Living the dream.
Living the dream.
Truly, truly living the dream, yeah.
You know, well, no, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, when you found out you were nominated for the Tony, what were you doing? Where were you? And what was your initial reaction?
So exciting.
I was at home and I was sitting on my couch with my roommate, Morgan Ashley Bryant, who's actually also an actress. We met on the national tour of Mean Girls. And we were sitting there and we watched it live, and I wasn't sure if I was going to, but when I saw my name, I burst into tears. And I didn't think that I had been like holding my breath, but it was like this release of emotion. And we were just, our jaws were just hanging open because we couldn't believe that it was happening.
Yeah.
So it was very, very exciting. And, I called my mom and all my family. And it was just, it still feels so surreal. It's wild.
And for folks that aren't as engaged in all of this as we are, Sunday night, you'll find out if you won or not on CBS. It's going to be aired, and you're going to be there with some other amazing nominees in this category. It's just so exciting.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting. I'm nervous, I'm excited, and I'm ready to get through it, Yeah.
I was just going to ask, Jacob, I do have a question. As the Director of Education and Community Engagement at Theater Under the Stars, you see a lot of talent and young Houston talent. What does it mean to see Jasmine now up here? I mean, doing her thing.
I'm assuming this isn't the usual path for a Tommy Tune winner, that a few years later they're winning a Tony.
No, but that's what I think is so amazing about programs like this. Across the country, there are various regional awards programs like the Tommy Tune Awards that lead to the Jimmy Awards. And I think it's indicative of how important these types of programs are, because it shows these talented students that they belong, that they have through hard work and through continued training, that they have a chance to do this. And I think Jasmine is the perfect example that a student comes, gets on a professional stage, gets this intense experience, and then says, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Jasmine, but it's like, oh, I can do this. This is something that I'm good at, and I can pursue, and I can make a living from. And it's creating the next generation of emerging theater makers, whether it's on the stage or behind the scenes or supporting it through the love of the arts.
Jasmine, did you ever go through that doubting stage of, I don't know, I mean, don't we all? I mean,
Absolutely. I think I have said exactly those words. Especially, I mean, when I did the Tommy Tunes, I did not think that I was going to win. First of all, I had no idea what they were until I was nominated. And I knew what they were before I was nominated because I knew that the nomination committee was coming. But I had no idea what the Jimmys were. And I was just looking around at these other students, and I was like, oh, these kids are amazing. These women are amazing. I'm not going to win this. And when I did, I was shocked. I think you could see it if you look back at the pictures in my face, and I just was so shocked. But even like still now, I mean, I think I was 17 at that time that I did that, maybe 18, and I'm 26 now. And I still have moments where I'm like, what am I doing? But what's been really cool about this experience is that it's all felt so right, and it's paid off in such a beautiful way. And that wasn't the goal or anything, but it's a great feeling, I'll say. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And tomorrow night, there's going to be a whole new group of students, of young women and men that are going to step on a stage. And this is their essential dream. And you have done it. And you've been through it. And you've gone through all of those moments of fear and doubt. And what would you tell that group of students tomorrow that are going to be stepping on that stage?
Yeah, I would just say to feel your feet on the ground and have fun, enjoy the moment. It's not about it's not about the final product. It's about the process. It's about these connections that you're making with people that I still am friends with to this day, that I hadn't met ever until the Tommy Tunes. It's just enjoy yourself and celebrate the work that you've done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting, thrilling. I do have to also say, I assume people who win a Tommy Tune, they expect that they're going to go into, hopefully, a career in showbiz. You, I'm sure, thought, this is the path I want to be on. But to actually be the lead title character in a brand new musical written by David Foster on Broadway with Faith Prince in the cast, really, and that, like you just said, 26 years old, makes me think, oh my Lord, the sky's the limit for this person.
Thank you. Yes, it feels insane. There are days I come in and I'm like, how did I get here? What am I doing? But and then I realized, I'm like, no, well, you've been working for this since you didn't know, but since you were 7 years old. But it is one of those things where I truly believe that the universe has a plan for all of us. And if theater is in your plan, you are going to do it. And it will be in whatever form it comes in. But I'm just a lucky, lucky girl.
Yeah, no, more than luck there. Jacob, I've also often said that the most thrilling night of the year to spend in the theater is the Tommy Tune Awards. Seeing these kids, seeing these productions, the joy, the support that comes. Jasmine may be able to address this better than me, even at the level of the Tony Awards. There seems to be a little backfighting going on right now. But at the Tommy Tunes, it seems to be all love. It just seems they all support each other and believe in this common dream. Is that your experience?
Absolutely. It's an incredible community that we have here in Houston, the musical theater community, especially the high school musical theater community. It's a group of kids who all love the same thing, and they support one another and they cheer for another. And I really want one of those decibel readers, because I think it's the loudest night in the theater throughout the entire year. I promise. It's a lot of screaming kiddos, and it's incredible.
And I think kids make it in their own way. Some are nominated and win Tonys. Others may be the lighting director. I mean, you find your own path. Some become TV weathermen. You never know. So, but how many are inspired by the Tommy Tune Awards to really pursue pursue this avenue professionally?
You know, this year alone, there's probably been about 5,000 students who participated in the Tommy Tune Awards program, whether they're at their school. The ones who are on stage, there's about 140. And then with the finalists, you know, there's another 50 or so that are non-performing finalists in the audience. And so, you know, I would like to say all of them, whether they decide to go into the arts and pursue it or not, they're all inspired by one another and by the performances that they see. And it's really, it's a great thing to witness. My favorite thing of the night is when they announce the winners of the outstanding lead, and to see the faces of joy of even the people who didn't win, because they just love one another and they support each other, and it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's great to see. For folks that don't realize it too, when the Tommy Tunes came around and why they exist, is so much attention in our high schools are put on our athletics. And Frank Young talked to me about this back then too. If we can give something so that the schools can put something in their mantelpiece and say, look we can win awards here too, we can compete in this area, it makes it more, puts more attention onto the importance and significance of arts programs in schools. And so by celebrating these individuals, we're also celebrating the whole concept of education for theater training and musical theater training and all of that.
I have a question for Jasmine. So, and not to get personal, but like, what's Sunday going to be like? Are you going to go to brunch somewhere? You're going to go and make sure you have the right dress? Get your
my question was, what's she going to wear? What are you wearing?
What's that Sunday in the day of the life for you?
Sunday is going to be a busy day. I do have a show. We have a matinee at 1 p.m.
Oh, my Lord.
George Clooney, too, is in his show at 1. Yeah, everybody's doing 1 o'clock on Sunday.
Are going to be in our shows, and then I'm going to run down the street to a hotel and get ready for the show, which will be really exciting. And yeah, I'm bringing my mother.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah, she's coming. She's so excited, and we're just gonna have a good time. I'm excited to be there. I'm just excited to be there. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, but it's gonna be a long day.
Where do we stand on? We've seen chatter in the media about this. Where do we stand on Boop getting to perform at the Tonys? Is it a done deal, or might it still happen?
I have no idea if it's a done deal or not. The fans got together and they were protesting a little bit for us to perform, which was really, really special.
Yeah.
But I'm satisfied, just like I said, to be there. If we get to, that would be amazing. I would love that. Yeah. But it's just an honor to be nominated. We have 3 nominations for Best Choreography, Best Costumes, and myself. And so we're going to go and we're going to represent no matter what.
Yeah. To catch people up just a little bit, traditionally it's the Best Musical nominees and the Best Revival that get to perform, but there's such a groundswell of love and support for your show that the audience wants to see you guys do it too. And, we're in your corner on wanting to see you get it. But it might be too much work for you that night. You do deserve a night to just sit there and bask in the glory of all of this, too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jasmine, you're our homegrown Houston girl who's now, her name is in the big lights. What do you miss about home? What do you miss about Houston?
I miss, oh my gosh, right now I'm thinking about being in the sun.
We've got plenty of it.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's very warm here today. It's almost going to be like 90 degrees. Yeah. But there's something about Houston sun that's just different that I miss. And I miss my home. We live outside of Houston in Richmond. Mm-hmm. But I miss being with my family and just that feeling of the Houston air. Yeah.
Tony night, a night of theater royalty. Who are you most excited to see or run into? I mean, you do work with Faith Prince, who I absolutely love.
I do.
So say hello to her for me. I love her.
I will. She's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Oh my goodness. But I'm excited to see. I'm really excited to see Audra McDonald. She and I both won a Drama Desk Award a few nights ago.
Yes.
For our performances, and that was really special. And we got to connect a little bit more.
Yeah, we kind of buried that lead. You did just win the Drama Desk Award for Best Actress or Best Performer in a Musical. So congratulations on that one. I heard that she had been supportive of your career before this too.
He had. I think it was through Boop that she learned who I was. But I'm in my dressing room right now. I'm sitting here looking at a card that she sent me, that she hand wrote, and she sent flowers and she sent cupcakes. She's just so kind, and we've spoken back and forth a little bit here and there, and she's just the kindest, most lovely woman, and I've looked up to her for a very long time. So it's really, really exciting.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. And Jacob, what are you looking forward to for tomorrow night here at the Tommy Tunes?
Just the collective community, just coming together. 2,000 people screaming and cheering each other on. It's literally the best. I can't wait.
Well, good luck. We're rooting
for you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much.
Tell your mom hi.
I will. And tell the Tommy Tunes kids I say hi. That's so exciting.
We will.
Jasmine Amy Rogers is the star of Boop the Musical, and Jacob Shideler is this Director of Education and Community Engagement at Theater Under the Stars. Thanks so much, both of you, for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
After the break, we'll talk with... we're going to learn more about our current obsessions. We're going to talk with each other.
Get your Google ready for mine.
That's right. It's our pop culture suggestions for you, and want to hear from you about your current obsessions. Give us a call at 713-440-8870. Stay with us. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Your right to know what's really going on in our world depends on more than just great journalism. It depends on your participation.
Houston Public Media is funded by Houstonians for Houstonians. 80% of our budget comes directly from you, our community.
That's how trusted information stays free and accessible. No ads, no shareholders, just clear and careful reporting.
Protect your right to stay informed by visiting houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
I'm Christopher Kimball from Milk Street Radio. This week, secrets, betrayal, and revenge. The story of a frozen vegetable empire.
It's amazing how far vegetables took my family, from the dirt to the corporate boardroom and to Grace Kelly's wedding.
How a farming dynasty went from fame and fortune to family drama. That's coming up this week on Milk Street Radio from PRX.
You can hear it Sunday at 1 p.m.
Hi, this is Matt Harrop. There's been a lot of news to cover in Houston over the last few months. Keep listening to Houston Public Media for the latest, and if you've got a car, truck, boat, or RV you don't need anymore, donate it to the station. It could be worth hundreds of dollars in support. The donation process is easy for you, and we'll pick up your vehicle in any condition. Here's how to get started. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org/cars to learn more. Thank you.
Houston Public Media presents the Moth Grand Slam, June 10th at the Heights Theater. Doors open at 7 p.m. It's the Grand Slam Championship, a battle of wits and words. Tickets at houstonpublicmedia.org/themoth. Support comes from John Moore, helping with plumbing, electrical, and air conditioning repairs, including out-of-warranty units since 1965. Details at 730-2525 or at johnmooreservices.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
It's Thursday. I thought it was Friday.
All excited there, too.
I was getting excited for Friday. But I'm excited for our current obsessions. This has been a nice show.
Yeah, it's been a really punchy show.
And we want to hear from you. We haven't heard enough from you today. We've had a few things, but give us a call. What are your current obsessions? What is obsessing you? Because we're going to find out ours in just a minute.
We got a text from someone named Jack and says, my current obsession is the album Lateralis. Did I say that right? Lateralis? Lateralus by the band Tool. Anyway, the album is chock full of amazing writing and wonderful songs about personal growth and more. Perhaps Jack is even a member of the band Tool. Who knows?
Yeah, and if you're just tuning in and you're wondering what
are
is
those two people
a current obsession. So a current obsession is basically anything that's taking up your time, your thoughts. For me, oftentimes, it's my algorithm on my Instagram chat. I can immediately see lots of different variations of sourdough starting to pop up. But you all know right now, my current obsession is, I'm really obsessed with it, is gardening. So give us a call with yours at 713-440-8870.
See, we need Celeste here to put us back in line, because the two of us are just like, we just took off on obsessions, and all. It's less like, excuse me, I have some business to do here. Let's get this done right.
Okay, are you ready to Google?
Okay.
Sure. What do you got for us?
Tyra, T-I-R-A.
If Banks is next, I'm leaving.
Tyra, nope, T-I-R-A, the spotted, not striped, the spotted zebra. Beautiful.
How do you find these things?
You know, Tyra's been around a while. Discovered in the Kenya Masai Mara National Reserve, which unfortunately is a wildlife reserve. So there's no one protecting Tyra. A spotted zebra, the only spotted zebra I've ever seen. Instead of the typical black and white stripes of a zebra, it's a genetic condition. But it's such a beautiful bull. Isn't she gorgeous?
Yeah.
But she doesn't have the black and white stripes to protect her when she's in a crowd of zebras.
But
so
is she endangered? Is the Tyra endangered?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, obviously there aren't a lot of Tyras out there, but when you're in the Kenya National Reserve, it's you're just out there. I mean, the lion can get you like a lion can get anything else. They don't take her and say, okay, we're going to protect you because you are so beautiful. So I think the last time that Tyra, this is why I'm obsessed with it. I think the last time that Tyra, born 2019, and named after the guy that discovered her, the safari guide. I think 2023 was the last time that we saw Tyra. So we don't know. We don't know what's actually
They should
happening.
change her name to Greta Garbo.
I'm reaching out.
need
If
to
anybody knows, please let me know because I would really like to know if Tyra is still around and still being spotted.
We should start a campaign, Save Tyra.
Well,
Hashtag
good luck. It's a whole
Save
other country.
Tyra.
Hey, Cher saved an elephant.
Well,
Yes.
Yes. there was a
Sheldrick
big story
Trust.
about
That's your elephant place, Sheldrick Trust.
There you go. My obsession,
Yes.
very bizarre, but it kind of ties into our last segment. I am obsessed with the musical Chess.
Okay.
It was written by Tim Rice, who did the lyrics for both Evita and Jesus Christ Superstar, and the two guys from Abbie. So together, back in the 80s, they wrote this musical. It had one big hit song in the U.S. called One Night in Bangkok. But the musical had kind of a troubled...
One night in Bangkok?
Yes, it had a very troubled history. It opened in the UK, ran for about 3 years, was much more successful. They opened it in the US, ran for about 2 months, closed. 37 years later, they are now going to do the first US revival of it, official. It's going to star Aaron Tveit and Leah Michele, along with Nicholas Christopher. It's going to come to Broadway in the fall.
Yep, I saw an ad for that.
Yes, it's coming back. It is, if you love Abbie, if you love musical theater, I have no idea what the story is going to be. And the reason I say that is at one point it was being produced in 5 different places across the globe, and they all had a different book. So the ending was different in each one.
I like
they had
that,
worked at
though.
it. Yeah, but not intentionally like a game of Clue where you didn't know what the ending was going to be. They just couldn't get the book to work. So I'm hoping that's it. So that's what I'm obsessed with. I've been watching old videos of Chess.
Well, one of the top trending items now on X is the trailer of Wicked for Good, which will be released in November. That seems to be, and we also had a YouTube comment that said the new Wicked movie trailer was released yesterday. It looks great.
I'm going to have to watch Wicked again, like at home. With closed captioning.
I'm going to watch it right before I go and see the second
their
part.
voices are so high. Ariana Grande, right? Yeah. It's way up. She talks way up here, and then she sings way up there. And listen, if you have any kind of closed captioning is your friend Celeste. I don't know if you're there yet.
We're there.
Okay.
I'm there. I've arrived.
So she's there because there's a lot of little kids talking at the same time she's trying to watch things.
Yeah. I got bored with Wicked. I was like, oh, I can't. I was in the iPic watching it, and I thought it's going to be loud enough. I'll love it. Because Mission Impossible, by the way, I finally saw it.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I loved it. I loved it.
Tom Cruise?
Tom was great. He's exhausting. He goes through airplane after airplane wing and, and falls off of them.
You woke up sore the next day?
There's a scene where he's running across like London Bridge, running. And Kevin looked at me and said, can't he just take an Uber now and then?
What are your obsessions? If we didn't get time to get to them today, we're always interested, so you can email them to us, and we'll get to them next week when we do obsessions again. Just send them to us at talk@hellohouston.org. Celeste, you were talking about how much you love gardening, and you talked about as your obsession last week, and you were getting advice and help from our listeners.
I have. I've been getting some emails, and I had printed out a couple of them because there were some great ones. Somebody called me Celeste, our garden maiden.
Oh.
And I absolutely loved receiving those tips and tricks. Keep them coming. I'm going to try to read some of them next week. But tomorrow, we'll have another episode of Cold Coffee, my podcast, which was so incredibly amazing to chat with Shannon Watts, who she's the founder of Moms Demand Action. And that is
regarding gun violence.
Gun violence and advocacy. And it's become one of the largest advocacy groups in the nation. And it is led by women. And talking to her, she's kind of making a pivot right now she stepped back in 2023 from being the president of Moms Demand Action. And now she's pivoting and she's mentoring women and how women can advocate for themselves. And more than ever, in the climate that we live in the way things are, we need to be uplifting voices of women. And she's it.
Look
so you will
to the conversation
tune
tomorrow.
in. And then next week, we'll have Superintendent Mike Miles
Yeah.
joining us. So we have a lot going on.
Everyone stops by Hello
Everybody
Houston.
pops in, and that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for joining, listening, commenting, and calling to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
We believe in your right to free information. Help protect trusted news that keeps us all informed by supporting Houston Public Media.